Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Legacy Leaders. Today, Scott McMeans, yours truly, is joined by Andrew Wolfe, who is the co-CEO and co-founder of Broom Filter. And you're probably asking yourself, what the hell is a broom filter? Well, I'm going to let Andrew tell you all about it. Once I turn the microphone and camera over to him, he's going to explain what they do, how well they do it, and why they're so damn good at it. So, Andrew, microphone and camera are yours. Tell us a little bit about
Awesome.
yourself and how you got here.
Thanks, Scott. Yeah, so thank you for having me on, first and foremost. And what Bloom Filter is we are a process intelligence platform for the SDLC. So what that means is we sit on top of people's existing systems like Jira, GitHub, Figma that they use for software development. We extract the data. We apply process mining, which is a analytics approach to analyzing data and business processes and artificial intelligence to stitch that data together, ultimately showing our customers where they had issues with their development process, making them more predictable, observable, and efficient, and nimble in their process transformations. We're about a 4-year-old company. We're growing, quite frankly, almost 4x year over year is
Wow.
the target this year. We're venture backed. We're backed by people like Sequoia, Magarac Ventures out of Pittsburgh, North Coast Ventures out of Cleveland, and many other very great institutions in the investment game. And obviously, our goal is to build a publicly traded company here in the Midwest. We work with customers across the board, some as small as 50 people companies, all the way up to brands you've heard of like Chipotle and Home Depot. And Schaeffler and global, multinational brands. So lots of impact across, every vertical and every companies of all sizes.
Okay. A lot there. Really impressive. I love the idea that what you do is scalable from a small company all the way up to a big brand, which means whatever process you have is a process that it works because it's agnostic to how big you are. All it looks at is what's your current data set, what's your current process, where are the gaps, and then you step in and say, if you just did this, and the other thing, you can streamline your process. Am I oversimplifying that, or am I making a pretty good spot?
No, you're absolutely right. They hook up our platform to start, they get data that they've never had visibility into before on how work is moving across their process. Oftentimes, we have partners that we work with, the Deloitte's, Accentures of the world, and also other smaller SIs that you probably have never heard of, or maybe you have. And they go in and they help those customers do the transformation. We do offer those transformation services in-house now as well, but much smaller scale, as we want to be a software company, not necessarily a services company. But we found we had to bring in that into our business in order to, one, set the standard of what our customers can expect, but two, to be able to better work with our partners when they need to bring in platform experts and insight that they might not have within their own company.
Okay. So interesting question, and maybe this is just my complete naivete or ignorance. Take it for what it's worth. What is the difference in your head between a software company and a service company?
Yeah, multiples. uh,
Okay.
Jokes aside, the big thing is with a software company, we're selling recurring revenue, right?
Hmm.
That recurring revenue that we're selling, we're selling annual contracts, anywhere from 1 year to we have a 3-year deal at some of our customers. Um, and that's really nice, right? They use our platform and it's much more scalable from a reuse perspective and everything else. We're building core IP. When I think about services, I think about one-time revenue. I think about very relationship, human driven, much less scalable than what we're trying to do. Nothing wrong with services. Obviously, we partner them, and they're for a product like ours, it's critical to have that change management, have those boots on the ground. But for our point of view and from our investors' point of view, they obviously, and the public markets point of view for that matter, there's just much more multiples on the revenue that software brings in because it's just good recurring revenue, high margin, at least from a gross perspective, business.
Sure. No, I understand. If you look at in the history of business, one of the best examples of leveraging doing something once and getting paid for it multiple times, it is software, right?
Yeah.
You develop the software once, you make sure it works, and you can sell to as many people as are looking for it, you make a lot of money. So it's a great business model. At some point, do you see you ever growing into a service-based business, or is it fully solely focused on let's get our software to where it needs to be, and we'll partner with people for services outside the ancillary?
I think as we build out our expertise, we will have a small services component of our business. If you look at the best SaaS companies, the Salesforces of the world, the Workdays of the world, they have their own professional services arm, right? And I
Mm,
think Salesforce made the mistake probably about 15 years ago. They got rid of professional services altogether. And then just recently, I think over the last 6 years, they've been acquiring many more professional services, bringing it back in-house. They don't do
okay.
everything in-house, right? But when there are specialized things that need to happen that are hard to sell to a partner because it's a hard deal to execute, you're going to need that. But you also need to be able to set the industry standard of what an implementation looks like. What is the gold standard? Where should they be working to so that when you do partner with people, you can hold them accountable? And if you don't have that in house, it's very hard to say, are they doing a good job or bad job, right? Because then you're solely focused on what's the customer saying, right? And
Mhm.
maybe the customer, the customer is usually right, right? If they're having a bad time, you obviously need to fix that. But in the general sense, they might not know why they're having a bad implementation. Whereas if you've run the playbook before, you can kind of say, okay, this is where you're falling down and coach your partners to be able to execute better.
Okay. So it seems like a really good fit though between you and your service partners right now is you do the great job of getting the software together and you partner up with people that can do the service until you're ready to bring it back in house. Is that where you're going?
Correct. Yeah. And
Good.
one of the reason people want to partner with us is, I mean, let's suppose $100,000 software sale. We usually find anywhere from 1 million to 2 million in work of transformation if at that size, right? So,
Okay.
you're really, uh, it's not even sort of shocking. There's a statistic published by McKinsey, which is one of the thesis of the whole company, which is 78% of software projects are late, over budget, or don't ship at all. We tell that statistic to CIOs and CTOs, and they look at us and they kind of chuckle and say it's that low. And I mean, it's just, yeah, it's frankly, disturbing. And so, when that statistic's true, you go and look and you just know there's a lot of low hanging fruit and there's a lot of work to be done at most of our customers. And they might not know what specific work is. The data will uncover that. And then it's a much easier sale to say, hey, I know exactly what you're doing wrong. This is exactly how I'm going to target it. And this is what's going to cost you. And here's the business case. That's an easy sale for most people.
Okay. So you're coming at it from a perspective of good data gives you the ability to make good decisions.
Yeah, correct.
Right? And when you start working with Broom Filter, if I'm positioning you in the marketplace, when you start working with Broom Filter, you get a chance to be exposed to data you wouldn't normally see. And now that you see it, it's glaring that you need to do the following so many steps to get yourself in the right process and finish your project. Am I on point?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So, how many other people in the marketplace do what you guys do?
Well, that's the interesting thing. There are ancillary competitors to what we do, right? Like I would never say we don't have any competition because ultimately budgets are finite, and so you're selling against different categories. If you look at like the Gartner, the stream the category Gartner puts us in, it's value stream mapping, and there's tools like Jellyfish and Linear B and a few others in this category, but there's no like big players, none that most people have heard of. Um,
Okay.
However, we think of ourselves differently than that. And I believe we're in our own category. In the process mining space, like Solonis is one of our biggest partners. In fact, we co-built a solution together called Solonis for the SDLC that runs on our IP, but runs on their platform. It's very similar to like a Viva type solution. So they're co-selling our solution into their customers, but we also fit into that category. And so when you think about process mining in the software development space, no one else is really doing that right now. I do think as we get bigger and we get more and more notice, as we start raising our Series A, our Series B, there'll be fast follows. Software is easy to build now because of AI, but also one of our thesis is we're gonna, you know, if everything's bad when it's moving relatively slowly, Imagine how bad it's going to be when everything is 100x faster because robots are doing everything. And
Right.
we're in one of the two fields I feel AI is disrupting the most right now. The other one being customer success. And so in the development space, I mean, we already have broken processes. Now you're going to throw agents and everything else in there, and it's a recipe for disaster. So you're going to want a platform like ours to monitor your agents and monitor all that. But also bigger than that, you're going to want us to manage your agents. And we're kind of moving in that direction as well, and we're the only one in that category as well. So I think at the end all be all, we'll be a category defining company when we get to scale. People will say, okay, they weren't quite like Linear Bee or Jellyfish who focus on developer productivity. They were about the entire SDLC, the entire process of taking an idea and getting it to production for your users.
I love the idea that you say you're going to be a category defining company, which means you're creating a space that only you are going to be in for a period of time, and others are going to have to fast follow, but they have to meet the standard that you've set because you've identified a category, right? It's kind of hard to
Correct.
beat somebody that establishes the category. You've been doing this for 4 years, you say, right? Over the course of those 4 years, Andrew, what would you say is the biggest challenge that you feel really good about? Like, this is what we had to overcome to get to where we are, and we feel pretty good about it. This is how we solved that challenge.
Mm.
What would that be?
I think I'm going to give you two answers here because they're kind of tied in my head.
Sure.
The first is whenever you put a solution in the market for a problem that people don't believe is solvable, you have to overcome an even greater burden than you typically have, right? If you're selling a CRM, everybody believes they need a CRM now. Everybody believes that they should have one. And so now you're less competing against the idea itself because there's already a
Hmm.
budget carved out because it's something that exists. And so when you go and sell that, they have a budget for $1 million and now you're selling against your competitors, right? I'm not saying it's easy. Selling is never easy, but it is easier, right? But if you're new and you're creating something brand new, there's no budget that exists,
Right.
right? And so the two problems are they don't have budget for it. And by the way, they're skeptical your stuff works at all because this is a hard problem. They all know it's a hard problem. They've tried to solve it before with other solutions. It did not work. And so now they're looking at you like, okay, do I really want to go to my CFO and carve out the budget to do this proof of concept, this proof of value? And if I do, am I sure this is going to work and not damage my reputation of this company for making bad decisions? Right? It's not like we have an IBM type brand or a Microsoft brand where you go in there and
Hmm.
say you don't get fired for that. You do get fired if you hire a Bloom Filter product and they don't do their job. And so fighting both of those battles has been really difficult. But one of the things that's really good, and Jeffrey Moore talks about this in Crossing the Chasm, is finding those early adopters, the ones who are willing to take the risk. They might not have the budget, but they typically have some sort of innovation slush fund because that's the kind of people they are, and so
Yeah.
they're willing to like take some of that slush fund and throw it your way. And so finding those people that are forward thinking, that were willing to say, you know what, this is a really big problem. And if I solve it, I have a competitive advantage. I'm going to look great to my board. I'm going to look great to my peers. And I'm going to be able to be forward looking when I tell them, hey, you should try this Bloom filter thing out. And so we took a lot of time finding those guys. And then when we did, sold them and then built our initial corpus of customers. And that built trust that one, you can pick
Yeah.
up the phone. Like you don't have to believe me anymore. You don't believe Andrew Wolfe. You can believe the CIO over here who says this works, who says it's transformed his company or her company. And by the way, also they say it's worth carving out that money. And so while you don't have this budget today, it's fine. Go find the budget. And by the way, we're going to save you so much money anyways on the upside of fixing your process that you
Yeah.
you won't even feel like you spend any money at all.
I love the proposition, right? It puts you in a very positive light. The challenge is finding those forward thinking people. So how do you message to those forward thinking people? And I'm not necessarily speaking specifically about Broom Filter, just conceptually. If I'm a small business and I'm trying to build something out of this, where do you go to get the right people from a forward thinking perspective? Is there anything that you
Yeah,
guys did unique? How did that work?
couple one, we were blessed with a big network of early adopters because I've been
Mhm.
in the startup game for so long. So we were able to talk to them first. But second, it's where people spend time, right? You can make this analogous for dating too if you want, right? If you want to date someone that's well read, right? Well, go to the library. Like don't go to the gym. the gym, you'll find someone that's ripped probably or
Yeah,
healthy. But you're not going to maybe find someone that's well read at the gym. You might, right? But you're more likely to go to a place like joining a book club or going to the library. And so, in the
true.
similar way, forward-looking people always are at places where forward-looking people hang out. So you go to the Silicon Valleys of the world, you go to the meetups where people are talking about the cutting edge technology, where they're looking for solutions, and you start to talk to them there. You go to the conferences that the people that are on the bleeding edge go to, right? You don't go to the Salesforce conferences or the Microsoft conferences or the SAP conferences. You can later, but you're going to the ones that are like purely like, hey, this is demo day at TechCrunch. Right. So you go and find the CIOs and CTOs that go there who are interested in that forward-looking area, and you start to surround yourself and spend time there, and you'll find that people are like, yeah, I'm here looking for solutions to my problems. I know I have the problem. I don't know what the solution is, and I'm hoping someone here has one for me. And you strike up conversations and you build relationships that way.
Awesome. No, it's a great example of what you guys have done to be successful. And that's a great lesson, right? People that are trying to get their message out, people that are trying to get their brand new business adopted in the marketplace, you just got to go talk to the right people
Yeah.
and find out where those people hang out and go get them. Great lesson. I appreciate that. What other lesson do you think, Andrew, is worthwhile for a business owner to learn? I mean, you've got a couple years of experience. You say you spend a lot of time in the startup world. So, what is it that you've learned along the way that you think people should really pay attention to? And again, I'm not talking rocket science kind of stuff here. I'm just curious, what is it that you've learned and you think other people should know?
I think the first thing, having had started other businesses too, the first is it's a survival game, right? You start looking at companies that have been around a long time. Like it's just because they've managed to survive long enough to do that. And I don't mean that from a pure like, oh, you have to have the willpower, you have to grit through. You do have to do that. I'm talking more just simple stuff, making sure you have cash, right? Cash is oxygen. Don't run out of oxygen, first and foremost, right? That means managing your budget tightly, spending critically, understanding what you're making your investments in, and ensuring that you have oxygen. But you also need blood, and that means also finding those first two or three customers and ensuring that you give them premium levels of service, right? That they can't possibly churn, right? And when I say, well, the interesting part there is what I call your ideal customer profile, right? You've nailed your ICP, and I give this advice to startups all the time. When you bat 1,000 when you talk to that person, right? And I tell
Um,
startups narrow, go super narrow. Like I want white guys in their late 30s in Northeast Ohio, right? And every time I talk to a white guy in his late 30s in Northeast Ohio, that deal is mine. And I know it's mine because I nailed in my offering so much that it's so hyper specific to that. You can expand down the road, but it is very hard to beat a competitor if you go after the entire market at the same time. Because guess who does that? Microsoft does that. Do you have a more compelling solution than Microsoft? Probably not. Right? Or if you're a services company, you know who else covers every market, everything? McKinsey, Accenture, and you're better than them? You're not yet. You could be, but you need to start small. How do you beat McKinsey? You go after the
niche.
deals they don't care about. You go after the customers that they can't service the way they need to because they're too big to be able to do that. And you win that, and then you can kind of expand from there.
I love that mentality. Win and then expand because you've developed experience in a niche or a specific market with this very specific customer that you've identified. And then once you get good at that, then you can move on. But you don't necessarily want to move on until you get good, right?
Oh, you got to get great in that. Like I said, you
Okay.
should know you can win that deal every time, and you keep that customer 100% of the time, right? Then move up market once you've really cornered that area.
Okay. No, look, amazing lesson. I think that one of the more powerful ones you could have is focus in on what it is you do, what you do well, very do it, and then start
Yep.
adding on the layers of different things you can do. As a guy that's been doing this for a while, what do you think is your biggest success story to date?
I think our the biggest success story is probably our Salonis partnership, right? From Bloom Filter, right? Like they do 1 billion plus in revenue. right? They're a massive company out of
Mm.
Germany, right? They are like the startup story. I think they're the eighth largest private company on the planet or something like that in the software, at least in software. It might be true across from a valuation perspective, but at least in software, they're the eighth largest. Um, they're the only one in Europe that's on the top 15 list. The rest are in the States or in China. Um, and so them partnering with a smaller firm to bring a solution to market that they personally admit that they couldn't have done it. Although I'm pretty sure they would have figured it out eventually. They're really good engineering team. To be able to partner with them, to be able to stand on the same stage they do, talk about how we solve, their customer problems, our co-customer problems, I think is a massive success for a startup, and it really sets a stage. One, sets a good floor for the business itself, right? When you think about valuation and outcome, but it also, for us, really signifies how far we've come, that a company like that would trust us with their brand and trust us with their
Oh,
customers and trust us with that. It really validates the idea, but two, the capabilities of the company itself.
okay. So I love the idea of this, and I want to get back to the trust element here because you've not made mention of trust a couple of times. How is it that a small company like yours builds such tremendous trust with a large, successful company like that? How does that work?
You do the one thing that small companies can do, which is you can do things that don't scale, right? When
Hmm.
I bring up examples of Microsoft, everything they do has to scale because if it doesn't, it's not worth doing for one, right? Like they can't do a $10 million line of business because that's not interesting to them. That's like a minute worth of revenue. They just don't care at this point. And so they need it to be $1 billion plus opportunity to even think about it, right? And so, but if you're a small business, you can show up onto customer site. You can be the CEO that does the work with the customer. You can sit there
Hmm.
and sit in the room with them and you can do that kind of stuff and you can work late in the night and you can show them that, hey, listen, I care more than my competitors do, and I can do that because they can't care as much, right? That partner at Accenture isn't going to pick up the phone for you and like at midnight and answer your call. They're just not going to do it, right? I will, right? And for
Sure.
the Salonis partnership, we were there. We showed them it could work. We put the hours in. We said, "Hey, we're invested in making this work. We're as invested or more invested than you are into seeing this thing through, and then we're going to give it everything it takes for this to be successful." And when they have that, and they know that, or whether it's one of our other customers like a Chipotle or anything, they know that we're going to move fast to solve their issues. They know we hear them, we listen to them, and that we're going to deliver, and that they don't have another vendor they can probably say that about, but they can say it about us. And so they know that, hey, we can trust these people that even if they're not perfect, and we're so far from perfect, right? That at least they're going to address their mistakes and they're going to work with us and they're going to partner with us because they value the relationship.
Okay. And one of the things that I think comes out of this, and there's a lot of good pieces of detail here, right? You offer something that's not scalable, which means you're small, you can be agile, you can take care of things when it comes up. You're present, you answer the phone, and you do care more than somebody else. That's all part of the process. The one thing that I think really kind of sums it up and wraps it up into a little bundle for you is you perform what you're asked to do better than anybody else could because you are present, you are available, and you do care more because their contribution to your top line dollar is so much more important to you than it is somebody else. So you perform, your performance level is significant to you, so it turns around and becomes significant to them. That's what I think is
Yep.
one of the secrets for a small time business. Everyone says, well, a big business is like turning the Titanic around a buoy, or small companies are so nimble. It's not that smaller companies are nimble, it's just they have to be more present and they have to be more connected to the revenue contribution to them and the revenue departure from the company they work with. It's a mutual understanding of this is important to both of us, as opposed to, like you said, they won't get out of bed for under $1 billion. Well, there's a lot of activity happens under that $1 billion number, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
you should be paying attention to it, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
When a lot of our deals are deals that a larger company simply would not just they wouldn't do. But we did, and we're gonna keep doing them. Like honestly, they're Some of our best customers are SMBs that I know our competitors wouldn't touch, but we did because it was worth it for us. We learn something every time we do a customer, and it makes us better, it makes us stronger, it makes us faster, and gives us the ability down the road to not have made that mistake at a much larger customer when the stakes are a little higher.
Yeah, 100%. I think when you have customer relations that you can handle because you're intimately involved, it makes it a lot easier to be a successful partner than somebody who is a number on a spreadsheet. Right? You really do care about the company that you're working with. Let me ask you this. When it comes to putting this all together and making your business unbelievably successful, what's the one thing you would categorize or one thing you would say that's the reason why we've been so successful? Is there one thing you can speak to?
I would say the one thing that makes us more successful is the same thing we just talked about. I believe it's just because we care more than like our engineering team gets on the phone with the customers and debugs live with our customers, right? That doesn't
Mhm.
happen at other companies, right? Our customer success team routinely will fly to customers, take them to dinner, make sure they understand the problem and everything else. You start to look at how many people are willing to, one, face their customers, two, partner with them in a true sense of partnership, and three, actually listen and care about their problems, and not just like, oh yeah, you can, we have a customer complaint line, you can do that. Like really caring about them, right? I bet if I pulled in one of my engineers right now onto this podcast, they could tell you the top five issues our customers have, where they're having it, and when we're going to be delivering a fix, right? Every single one of them. And that culture of just delighting the customer, but also really caring about the customer's problems, and not just like from them complaining perspective, but really like we understand what process issues they're having and we care about them. We want them to solve them and we want to see them successful. You that culture permeates everything that we do, which
Okay.
means our sales is better. It's not as competitive. It's not this slog of like, oh my God, I know they're going to put a contract in front of me for 30% more. And like every time, like, I don't want to talk to the sales guy or I don't want to talk to my customer success rep. I don't want to talk to this engineer over here. Like, we don't have that problem. Our customers willingly share stuff with us. They help us build our product. They partner with us because they know we care. And that's a superpower in an organization. And we will never lose that. We're going to keep that as part of our culture because as we scale, as we get bigger, we're going to be able to make that oh, permeate everything. And they're going to know whether you're a small business or you're the largest business in our portfolio that you're going to get the same amount of love and attention that everybody gets.
I love that. So the culture is the secret, and that's fantastic because it permeates everything that you do. All the employees, all the people on staff know exactly what they're all working for. And it's that face the customer, care about them, and actually do what the customer needs. That's a culture that will always be successful. So congrats on that. That's huge. It's a very big part of what your success is. Um, I have a final question for you. I'm going to put you in a time machine and send you back to visit 18-year-old Andrew Wolfe. You two sit on a park bench. What's that conversation sound like?
Probably ends in a fist fight.
No, that's not good. We don't want that. We don't want that.
18-year-old me. I think the conversation would be around patience, right?
Yeah.
A lot of them, I haven't made too many mistakes. Obviously, I'm here. I'm living my dream, and probably other people's dream would love to be an entrepreneur and running a successful startup and everything else. So I'm eternally grateful for that. But all the mistakes I made were because I wasn't patient, right? I didn't, I thought, oh, when I turn 30, I'm dead, whatever, right? And like, that's when your career goes to die. It's like, well, no, a lot of the best things happen in my career after I turned 30. And, I had a lot of success when I was younger, but I, would go, 2 years at a job. I, jump over and I wasn't patient and didn't see things through because I thought I had to be on to the next thing to get to where I wanted to be. And
Okay.
so it'd be around being more patient, taking a step back, really listening to it, and taking my time rather than, rushing through things to get it done to have the experience versus like, we didn't experience it. You just did the thing, which is cool. But like, did you enjoy doing the thing or did you just do the thing?
Yeah.
And so like being ambitious, don't give up on the ambition part of it, but certainly a little more patience, knowing that things do always take longer. They still do. I'm still a really impatient person, but I also have built the wisdom of knowing things are always going to take longer than I want. I can try to speed it along, but if the outcome is worth it, it's worth taking the time to do it
Mhm.
right. And in that, like that's something 18-year-old me had no clue about.
Well, you nailed a couple different concepts here, and I want to just thank you for it because ambitiously patient is a great term. I'm going to steal that, by the way, because it makes sense. And the other word that you dropped that may have not been caught by the ear was wisdom, the ability to take experience and knowledge and create something that, okay, because of what I know, I'm not going to jump into that so quickly, or my wisdom tells me this is the right thing to do. I love the line that somebody said, knowledge is knowing a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is not ever putting it into a fruit salad.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
So
Yep.
wisdom is a good word to bring out, and I appreciate you doing that. Hey man, I want to thank you for being on the program. This was incredible. Lots of great lessons to be learned, be transferred over to people, and I appreciate you giving that knowledge to folks. Any final words?
No, one thing I'll say is I think uh, entrepreneurship is this, I'll call it fraternity, but it's for everybody. And it really is a community. And, I love joining podcasts like this where I can help share my knowledge because,
Yeah,
one of the reasons I'm here is I had so many great mentors who shared their knowledge with me. And maybe my knowledge is good, maybe it's not, right? That's for everyone else to decide. But in
that's right.
that, like, helping out. Like I love paying it forward, but always remember to pay it forward and to embrace it. This is not an easy journey, right? It breaks a lot of people. I've seen it personally. I've had good friends that have gone through it. So take time to take care of yourself, right? First and foremost.
Mm,
Understand that it's hard, but also understand that if you're struggling, so is someone else doing the same thing you're doing, right? So be there for people, but be there for yourself as well. And never feel bad about that, right? Take time away from the business to make sure that you can be at your best. Because, I hate seeing burnt out entrepreneurs that have to quit because they can't continue the journey versus where they could have been incredibly successful or successful with their definition of success. Keep
yeah.
doing it.
I love that. Thank you for that piece of advice. I think everybody can follow into that in those footsteps with the idea of be successful, but be your definition of success. Whether it's aspiring to be Elon Musk or it's aspiring to go on your boat every weekend. Just find your level of success and work your ass off to get there. So yeah,
Yep,
good stuff.
100%.
And thank you so much for being on the program. And we'll see everybody on the next episode of Legacy Leaders.
Thank you.